There is an order of priority when planning your retirement. We've helped hundreds of people retire. So I want to share the system that successful retirees follow so that you can model it and adjust it to just fit your needs. You may have seen the quote, if you want to be successful, find someone who's already achieved the results that you want and then model what they do, and then you'll achieve similar results. And the people who have followed this framework, they've lowered their taxes, actually, they've reduced their risk of investments, and then they feel more prepared for every economic season that we may go through. And that leads to just more confidence, more peace of mind in retirement. So let's get into it. Step one might not be what you think. It's actually, don't focus on the investments or the risk tolerance just yet. Don't focus on the accounts just yet. A lot of CFPs out there, they'll start with questions. If you talk to them like, how much do you have in each account? Or how are the accounts invested? What type of investments do you have? But we found it's more effective to start with your income plan before you start with the investment plan. We don't start with the investments because it's kind of like saying, here's the numbers. Now, how about you fit your life into these numbers? Instead, we often ask our clients about some of their hopes and some of the things they want to achieve in retirement or do in retirement, what ideal retirement would look like without the constraint of numbers. The traditional way often looks like, okay, let's look at the numbers and then let's look at risk tolerance and then let's design your ideal retirement the way that fits with these things. But in reality, a way we've seen that's better for clients is start with the life and the vision for your ideal retirement. And then that helps you design what your income plan is going to be, what you need. And then that tells you how to be invested and what the numbers look like to fit in your retirement. I know this looks very simple, but at this small shift in thinking, it's made a big, big impact in the level of enjoyment our clients are having and what they're actually doing in retirement. Sometimes if you start with the numbers and the investments, you feel a little bit more constricted into what's possible versus figuring out what that dream retirement would be. And then the numbers can fall into place. If you agree with that, let me know by clicking the like button. Not everybody does agree, but I'd like to know your opinion below. And also, if you're liking this video so far, leave a like if it's helpful. And there's another reason we like to start with the income plan is because it actually, like I showed you just a second ago, it actually tells us how to be invested. As I said before, a lot of those retirement people or investment advisors out there will give you a risk tolerance assessment, and then they'll be invested or recommend investments based on how risky you feel or how much risk you can take. But we'd rather design that income plan first because it tells us how to invest. Think of like in 2008, what was your risk tolerance then? If you took a test then, it'd look a lot different than if you did one now. Or if you took one in March of 2020, the risk tolerance changes, but there's things that don't change in retirement. And that's how we plan for our clients. Really the big way for a lot of our clients, it's about taking the least amount of risk possible while still having the highest chance of success of their retirement plan working. And you might be feeling the same way. The thoughts in your head is, maybe I don't need to maximize growth anymore. Or, it might be not so much about growth and savings rate anymore. It's more about sustainability in your spending rate and security. And without doing that income plan first, it's much harder to design the right investment plan because really it's kind of guessing, maybe a 60-40 works. That's the common thing. So this amount sounds good to me. This is how much I want to have in the conservative bucket, but it's not based on anything factual when it comes to what your retirement actually looks like. And when it comes to your investment plan, there's really only 3 things that we can control. The first thing is tax. And yes, you can actually control tax. It reminds me of a few tax seasons ago. John came in to pick up his return. He wasn't a client of Streamline yet. And he thought it was going to be a normal, regular pickup because his work situation didn't really change that much from the previous year. Income was the same. Everything was pretty much the same. And he was shocked to see that he had $60,000 of extra income on his tax return that he had to pay taxes on immediately, or at least before April 15th. And it was because his financial advisor had recommended doing some reallocations in his investment accounts, and that triggered capital gains. And John said, but I didn't even sell anything. The accounts didn't even go up that much this year. I've got to pay tax on it. And on top of that, he was already in the highest tax bracket because he was still working and he had a great income. So he was paying 35% on short-term capital gains and dividends and interest. So it was an unpleasant surprise, as you'd expect. Hopefully that hasn't happened to you when picking up your taxes. But it does happen a lot more than it should. It's situations like this that they can be avoided. And here's two ways that that could have been avoided, and two things to think about. Number one, you saw it already, I think, is the type of investment that you own. Some funds and some ETFs, they pass on taxable capital gains and distributions to you each year, even if you didn't sell anything, like the person we just talked about, and you're just stuck paying tax on them. At Streamline, we want to use funds and ETFs that are tax efficient. So that way, we and our clients, we can decide when to recognize capital gains. It's much better to have control over when you decide to recognize it instead of letting the investment companies decide for you. And then number two is a strategy that you've heard before, and it's TLH, tax loss harvesting. In John's case, tax loss harvesting it could have saved him a lot of money because he actually did have losses, unrealized losses in his investment accounts. And just as a summary for tax loss harvesting, throughout the year, investments go up and down. Tax loss harvesting is when investments, if they go below what you had originally invested and there's a loss, sometimes people recognize that on purpose to take the loss on their tax return and then invest in a similar way that they were invested before. Actually, here's an image just to give you an example. Not exactly the person we had mentioned before, but a $28,000 capital gain recognized. Potential tax owed is $7,000. But there were investments that had unrealized loss. So this tax loss harvesting is taking the loss, offsetting the gain, and then anything that you don't offset can be carried over to the following year. In this case, he's taking $2,000 over to the following year to be used and offset future gains that year. So that tax savings could have been $8,000 saved for John, or for this example. And for a lot of our clients, this has saved tens of thousands of dollars in taxes, depending on the year, depending what's going on in their life. Now, the final thing that we can control, we already talked about tax, and then we talked about cost. And sorry, cost is number two. There's one more thing we can control after this, but cost is a big one. Because let me ask you, if you had two investments, they had the same risk, same return, same tax efficiency, but one, you had to pay 0.6% was the fee per year, and one was 0.05%. Which one would you choose? Obviously, the answer is the lower cost option if everything else is the same. And that might seem straightforward, but a lot of advisors, they don't always focus on the lower cost investment options because sometimes it means lower fees for them, depending on what type of advisor they are. So just be aware of investment costs when talking to people if you talk to advisors. At Streamline, we take a different approach. We're certified financial planner professionals, so we follow the fiduciary standard as a CFPs, meaning that we have to do what's best for clients, not the things that pay us the most. So we prioritize lower cost investments so that can keep more money in the pockets of clients. Now, the last element that we can control is risk. We've already talked about why investing purely based on risk tolerance isn't enough. There's another way, and it's really the risk in your investment strategy. Like King Solomon said, there's a season to everything, right? And we believe that this applies to investing as well. And there's 4 economic seasons that we can go through, that the economy can go through. It's higher than expected economic growth or lower than expected economic growth. It's higher than expected inflation, like we've kind of been seeing the last few years, and then lower than expected inflation or deflation. And there are investments that fit and do well in each one of these seasons. And we don't know what the next season is going to be, but we just want to make sure that we have investments that can do well so that the income plan doesn't get impacted if we go into an unexpected economic season. Our job is to reduce the risk by preparing for each one of these economic seasons. And those are it's an example. Again, don't make any decisions by looking at charts, but this is just an example of different types of investments in different seasons. But I would say, make sure you're prepared for whatever season might come. That way you can have the confidence knowing that your plan is built to weather whatever happens. It's not like we're taking guesses. It's like we're just preparing for each and every season, and then the income plan doesn't get impacted. So all of these things are important, but there was a lot that we went over just now in this video. To simplify it, remember this. Focus on 3 parts of your retirement plan. It's the income plan, the investment plan, and then the tax plan. There's other parts to retirement planning, but those are the three main ones as we're starting and getting set up for the next few years. And then if you're looking for more videos on making your retirement better, check out these videos. And if you like this, please like it. And then I'll see you in the next one. Take care.